This week's episode is about what is usually called the prodigal son parable. I'm Rachael Keefe, and this is Monday's Muse. The gospel reading for this week is what is typically called the prodigal son. And yes, it is snowing a lot right at this very moment. Try not to let that be too much of a distraction. The prodigal son is the very popular Bible story that Jesus tells when the Pharisees and scribes start complaining about Jesus associating with sinners. So the story essentially goes that there is a man with two sons, and his younger son wants his inheritance early. So the father gives it to him, and the son goes off and squanders all that he's given, realizes that he could live better as a slave or a servant for his father, and goes back home begging to be let in as a servant. And of course the father is overjoyed to see him, welcomes him, has a celebration with the fatted calf, while the older son has basically a hissy fit. And we refer to the younger son's behavior as prodigal. Now, you may not be like me, but for years, I had the wrong definition of prodigal. I thought prodigal referred to the younger son's poor choices, poor behavior. It was like another word for wayward. But it's not at all. Prodigal means sort of to be reckless or wasteful or extravagant with one's resources or toward someone or something else. It usually has a bit of a negative connotation. That recklessness that's not fun, but truly reckless and perhaps detrimental. And it occurred to me when I discovered that what the word prodigal really meant, that it's not the son who's prodigal in the story at all. It's the Father. And of course, the Father represents God. That God is prodigal with God's love for us and for the whole of creation. Reckless, extravagant, constantly giving out love without regard to limits. It's really amazing when you think about it that way. This is a story not so much about a prodigal son, but about a prodigal God. And once we recognize that, a couple of things happen. One, we are reminded yet again of how much God truly loves us, recklessly, because we don't often return that love, without regard to limits, constantly, forever, and extravagantly, more than we could possibly ask for. And the other thing that happens is that we have the realization that if we are Christians, if we are followers of Christ, we are called, perhaps even commanded, to love with that same prodigal love. To love ourselves, to love our neighbors, to love creation, to love God with that same kind of reckless, extravagant love. So pay attention this week as to whether or not you love with a prodigal love. And where is it that you experience God's prodigal love for you? Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.